This video is brought to you in part by Squarespace. Welcome back to Sonic Speed Reading. Now, last time I spoke about the IDW run, I lamented the general pace of the book, but I've had a lot of people tell me that things immediately turned around with the issue that released right after I released my video. And there was certainly a lot of buzz surrounding the previews, as we were not only teased with a story inspired by the Sonic Rider series, but also with a mystery of a Phantom Rider. Well, this story has been running for quite a bit, so I figured we'd get caught up with these next few videos before their milestone 75th issue. So let's kick things off with issue 69. Nice. The issue wastes no time getting us into the action. We pick up right at the start of the first event of the Clean Sweepstakes, a charity event put together by the combined efforts of the Restoration and Clean Sweep Incorporated. And all this is being announced by Night the Owl, who is sitting aboard the Restoration's giant shuttle, which will prove to be a very important setting for this story. And speaking of the story, there are going to be a lot of little plot threads that all come to a head in this tale. If you don't recall, Clean Sweep is a cover for Clutch, a shady black market crime lord who does his best work from the shadows, and he's been planning his lackeys within the Restoration with the intention of taking it down. But hey, I'm taking up more time getting to the action than the comic itself. Everybody is here for one reason or the other. Sonic and his pals just love a good race. The Babylon Rogues are here for the cash prize, and the rest will become obvious as the story kicks off. For now, this is just a qualifying race. As long as you can make it past the finish line within the time limit, you're good to go. With all that said, the race kicks off. And as you can see, Aaron Hammerstrom's art is once again beautifully conveying the motion and energy that helps Sonic flow even when the picture isn't moving at all. And it works really well with the writer's story. You can tell Evan and Aaron had a lot of fun putting together a book based around this fan favorite side series of the franchise. But it's not just the action that looks pretty, but all the little details. The IDW art team really loves to design the hell out of the random Mobian crowds, and yes, I'm still gonna call the furries Mobians because I don't want to call them furries. It's a good term and you can't stop me. And this time, it's not just the crowds or background riders that get the great designs, but also the gear they ride. We get some really unique designs, and Tails, of course, takes notice to all the wild tech, which is used as a convenient excuse to drop in some much needed context, such as the extreme gears that Sonic and Tails are riding being experimental prototypes, which was established in issue 68. You might have missed that if you watched my coverage, since I spent so much time whining. Anyway, as the race starts off, the comic briefly turns its attention to a couple of Clean Sweep mascots on the stadium screens, Dr. Yoke and his little crab meat sidekick named Nick. Can't help but wonder if the IDW team is getting sick and tired of my nonsense. Anyway, these are cute characters here to make fun of Dr. Eggman, and yes, this is going to be important for later. But this also makes me smile and just hits me in the nostalgia. Yeah, the Rider series gets a lot of love, and I'm glad a lot of those fans get their nostalgic hit, but this page here with Crab Meat Nick reminds me a lot of the early Archie days, where Robotnik had a Crab Meat sidekick, and like I keep saying, the early day Badniks are some of the best flunkies the Doctor has ever had. Even if that wasn't an intentional callback, this still reminded me of those old comics, so that made me smile. But that aside, there's no mistaking Dr. Yoke's insult, Nincombat. This was a common insult used by Robotnik in Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog.
You are nincompats!
Now, don't get me wrong, I will still be a big pain in the ass to Sega while I whine about getting the return of legacy Western characters, but that aside, I still appreciate these simple, lovely little callbacks. They're greatly appreciated. But I digress. The story shifts its focus to Clutch and Jewel, the two leaders of their respective groups, who are running the event, with Chaos Cola, as always, serving as a stand-in for alcohol. And I'm not remotely mad about it. I actually love that they lean in so hard by making the name of the soda more and more ridiculous. Limited edition Chaos Cola Extreme Blast. And Clutch, intimidating as he is, still goes out of his way to say the entire name in full, and that is adorable. Anyway, this scene is here to both establish the characters and their place in this story. And on top of that, it also is here to juxtapose the two very different leadership styles and personalities of Clutch and Jewel. I keep forgetting Clutch Is it possum? Do you pronounce the O in opossum? Well, I just looked it up. Yes, you do say opossum. I actually have one of those living in my neighborhood, by the way. I keep trying to rescue some alley cats because it's getting cold outside, but this stupid idiot opossum just keeps activating this trap I have and eating all the cat food. And every time I just try to shake him out, he just won't leave. So I think he just lives in this doghouse next to my house. I think I have an opossum. Anyway, Jewel feels she should be down among the people representing the restoration, but the way Clutch sees it, making yourself a figurehead, an individual, exposes you, makes you fallible, makes you weak. But taking a step back and letting the world see the restoration as an institution rather than an individual will make you untouchable. This is the opossum's philosophy in general. This is how he works. He's the main villain of this story, and the heroes are completely oblivious to that fact. Outside of a handful of people, nobody even knows Clutch is running clean sweep, and he intends to keep it that way, but more on that later. It's clear Jewel is uncomfortable around Clutch, but concedes that clean sweep's work speaks for itself, so there might be something to what he's saying, but unfortunately she has to cut their conversation short as she's pulled back into work, which means, unfortunately, she will miss out on the race. But speaking of the race, we get back to Sonic, Amy, and Tails. And I do have to say it's nice to see them in their rider get-ups. I know they like to keep the Sonic characters on model as often as possible, but as we will see in this story, hopefully Sega is letting the art team flex a little bit more here when it comes to different outfits. Of course, Sonic and pals come face to face with the Babylon Rogues. And I gotta admit, while they have had a couple strong moments in the IDW series, usually when they show up they get dogged on pretty hard, and don't get me wrong, they do still have that happen to them here in this story, but it's nice to see them in their element, with Jet being as annoying as ever as he talks a bunch of trash to Sonic, all while Swallow is emasculating poor little Tails over his tech work, and let's be real, probably making him feel some very confusing things. I get it, Tails, that's a very hot bird. Does it still count as a furry if she's covered in feathers? Anyway, the banter between these 6 characters is just a lot of fun. I love seeing Amy being protective of Tails and not taking any crap from Storm, and Sonic showing up Jet's smack talk with a simple smirk and a boost of speed is simply perfect. Just great energy to this entire interaction. But again, Jet is at home on his hoverboard, and it doesn't take the birds long to catch up with the mammals. And when they do, Jet rams his X-Gear into Sonic's, which gets a reaction from the Diamond Cutters. And this is where we learn that Tangle, Whisper, Lanolin, and Duo aren't here to race, but instead serve as the security force for the event. There is a wider security team, but the Diamond Cutters specifically police the race by being a part of the action. And the sheep scolds the green bird. Again, we get a cute interaction with Tangle since she's on the scene. Love that lemur. Now, all of this is great fun, but just when you feel they're establishing the relationships and roles for what we'd assume to be a story set around a racing tournament, a button is pressed, and suddenly Amy's extreme gear begins to freak out. And when Sonic and Tails turn around to help, their boards also act wild, and then send the two flying off their extreme gear. So things take a drastic turn, but before we can see what happens, the comic jumps backwards in time to provide us with some much needed context. While getting everything prepared for the event, Mimic brings Clutch a list of all the contenders, pointing out those who could end up being problematic if they ever got close enough to discover who was actually running the show. Of course, as soon as Sonic, Tails, and Amy are shown, Clutch decides something needs to be done about them. Amazingly, he stayed off Sonic's radar, which is interesting when you consider that Clutch has been around in the comic series for a while at this point, but he's never run into the main character. He has, unfortunately for him, run into Amy Rose, so the Pink Hedgehog is well aware of Clutch and his nasty schemes. She's a problem on her own, and of course Sonic and Tails would be as well. So he sends Mimic off with the instructions to tinker with their extreme gears as they have been turned in for pre-race inspection. We then move to the second phase of the plan. The next morning, Mimic meets up with Surge and Kit, instructing them to hit a button on a remote to cause the hoverboards of the heroes to freak out. Surge, of course, protests. Underhanded, sneaky nonsense is not her style. She is loud and she is violent. If she is meant to take out Sonic, then just let her take out Sonic her way. But Clutch pops in and flexes his power, reminding Surge of her place. Surely that won't be a problem later. She responds well to authority. Anyway, for now, she agrees with the plan, and now we cut back to the present, where we see Tails carrying Sonic towards Amy's rescue. They grab a hold of the pink hedgehog, but before they can do something about their wild and crazy gears, a shot rings through, taking them all out. With one move, Whisper has taken out the faulty extreme gear, but unfortunately, this also means that Sonic, Tails, and Amy are all disqualified from the race. And I will admit, first time I read this, that was not the direction I was expecting this story to go. And I also didn't expect the most interesting part of this comic to take place in a diner. Not only is this just a fun setting, I love the old school Americana style diner, it's fun to see our heroes here, and I love the little squiggly cheat server. Just great designs for all these extra characters all around. Anyway, Tails is feeling pretty crummy. He feels that this is all his fault. All of his gear screwed up, and it caused them to get kicked out of the race. A race that you would assume, if this was any normal story, would have just seen Sonic winning the whole thing eventually. But Amy reminds Tails not to beat himself up. Something feels wrong about what happened. Her board wasn't an experimental prototype, so his assumption that he did something wrong doesn't make sense. And on top of that, the Clean Sweep staff were huge jerks. They wouldn't let anybody from the restoration talk to the heroes after the race. Something seems fishy. And with his brilliant mind once again on the case, Tails remembers that the only time their X gear were out of their sight was when they were being examined on the restoration's main shuttle. And Amy points out, obviously they should investigate and figure out what happened. But as Tails points out, the sweepstakes is touring the world. That's why they're on the restoration shuttle. And once it's airborne, it's not going to be coming down, and it'll be nearly impossible to get inside. And I love seeing these three plan like this because it shows you what their priorities are and what their philosophies are. Because Sonic just assumes, well, we just take the tornado and we just bust in. Who cares? But Tails points out, if they do that, they're going to ruin the sweepstakes, and it defeats the entire purpose of investigating to see if anything's fishy. Remember, they don't actually know if anything suspicious has happened yet, and they could just potentially be ruining this grand giant event for selfish reasons. But just then, they are interrupted by Dr. Eggman in some fantastic drip, I must say. He's got this undercover vibe going, but this is also a reference to Sonic Shuffle, where he had all kinds of costumes. I really got to give that game another chance. I don't like playing it, but man, it's a weird time. But yeah, like I said, it's great to see all these characters in different costumes and referencing some very obscure Sonic media. And of course, things get incredibly interesting because now we have Dr. Eggman, the greatest enemy of Sonic the Hedgehog, joining them at a diner to offer them some help. And I just love how everybody reacts. Amy's ready to hit him with a hammer, Sonic's ready to jump to action, and Tails is pissed too, and they're all just saying, Dr. Eggman, and he just doesn't care. He's just shoving right in next to Tails, ordering some food. That's adorable. I love this. Anyway, yeah, Eggman intends to help these three in their plans to investigate what's going on with Clean Sweep. And that's because he walked in on Orbot and Cubot watching the opening events and got a peek at those mascots, which made him good and proper pissed. So because of that, and because it's his personal mission to humiliate Sonic, not the Babylon Rogues, and not whoever was tinkering with their boards, he decides he's going to help his greatest enemy. He really is that petty. I love it. And he intends to help by offering Sonic his own extreme gear, which he names quite cleverly his Eggstream gear. It's absolutely adorable. And it looks like I could just name 5 different Eggman robots that thing looks like. I'm just so thankful that even the new designs are so consistent with Sonic designs. Again, as much as I miss some old Archie bits and pieces here and there, they're really good designs. In the old days were very few and far between. And of course, Tails is all googly-eyed for it. I do like that weird, complicated relationship between the Doctor and the two-tailed fox. Tails can't help but admire share Eggman's technical genius. Anyway, this egg string gear could serve as a distraction while Tails and Amy sneak aboard the shuttle, because not only is this a wicked fast little machine, it also has adaptive hard light camouflage, meaning that it can disguise whoever rides it. Now, at this point, we don't know if Eggman has another motive behind everything. It's likely he does, but we don't know for sure. If it ends up that he just wants Sonic to find out who Clean Sweep is being run by, simply because he hates the fact that they made fun of him, that would be hysterical. I would absolutely love that. But yeah, a plan is concocted between Eggman, Sonic, Tails, and Amy. And with that, we end issue 69. Before we wrap up for today, I want to take a moment to talk about today's sponsor, Squarespace. Jumping online and building up your own brand was always an intimidating thing for me, but Squarespace makes that a streamlined, fast, and easy process, all while making you look good thanks to their Fluid Engine, a next-generation website design tool that lets you tweak any of their many templates with easy-to-use drag-and-drop tools. And I don't need to tell you how useful websites can be, whether you want to build up a portfolio of your work, an art gallery, or a shop, because yes, they have everything you need to run your own online business, including analytics that help show you the strongest avenues of growth and help you build up marketing strategies, which include integration with your favorite social media networks. And they can even help you set up an online shop to sell and distribute custom merch. All you have to do is design it and they'll handle production, inventory, and shipping. Really doesn't get any easier than that. And to make it just a bit easier, if you use my link, squarespace.com/gameapologist, you'll get 14 days for free, which is plenty of time to see if this is right for you. And when you want to make a purchase, that same link will get you 10% off your first order. Thank you again to Squarespace for sponsoring the video. And this is where we're going to end the video. But don't you worry, I'm not going to make you guys wait a whole lot of time before we get into the Phantom Rider stuff properly. By this point, you might have already figured out who it is, if you haven't somehow had that spoiled for you on social media. But I will say, regardless of whatever comes next, I did enjoy this particular issue quite a bit. The art is gorgeous. You could tell Evan had a lot of fun putting this together. The interactions with all the characters is a lot of fun. I didn't expect him to just kick Sonic out of the competition before it even technically started. And with all these extra characters in play, they all get a chance to shine, and it's all wonderfully balanced. This was a lot of fun, and this made me very excited for whatever comes next. So hopefully they keep this energy up as they journey into issue 75. Does this solve all the problems I was complaining about before? Can't say it does, but that doesn't mean you can't have a lot of fun with what they do have here. I can't sit here and complain about the same things every single time. That's not why you guys watch this coverage. But yeah, that's enough rambling from me. We're gonna get right back into it very soon. Got a lot of fun stuff for you guys coming up. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your support. And if for some reason you haven't heard who the Phantom Rider is or how the story plays out or any of that stuff, please don't spoil that for anybody in the comments. If anything, if this sounded fun and if you haven't picked it up for yourself, go check out the books and then come back to this series to hear my analysis and my thoughts on everything. But for now, that's gonna do it. Extra special thank you to the patrons who support the channel. You guys are, as always, amazing and also keeping me alive. Thank you so much. With an extra special thank you to these fine folks here: Kyle Winter, Cyrus the Skeptic, Joseph Duncan Sonic 2 Blue, Josh Strider, Trey Nobles, Hatsworth, Tiny Jericho, Ginger Bob, Jack of All Spades, Tristan Trapp, Meekers, Bo Bennings, Quote Resident Fanboy, Miles the Prower, Singer J199, Sam Webster, Fishflop, Lucas Lipker, The Bad Pal, Jonathan Dobbs, Chad, Mr. SP, Cecil the Glade, The Dark Neon, Stefan Placonica, 3 Monic, Graham J. Hall, Lenny X, Wayne Is Boss, Letteric, David 20 Covers, David Kimmy, Trash Baphomet, Enerjack 5, Grayson Conager, Xerxes the Renegade Jin, Ken K, Ven 101, Paxton Bisbee, Sindarin 7, Banui, Twilord. Did you know this entire video was AI generated? Crimson Rose, Roxas the Cat, Godzilla, Makuta of Salt, Gleam the Anomaly, Alexander Watson, Neil Gappa, Conan Kudo, the Lex, the most powerful ship in the 2 universe, universes. Kaido Prower, Spearmint, the real game apologist currently locked in a basement. This crazy video maker AI took over my house. Send help, please hurry. Omega Man 21, Penn Adelaide, Daza S, Drabo 06, the world's most unironic 8.5 tail stand. What should we call the game apologist AI? Mecha Nick? Robot Nick? Bad Nick? I made the joke before, but like I'm responsible for the entire Sonic franchise. Saw Nick, Robot Nick, you're all welcome. Gob, the RSI, Sergeant Seven Sol, Sweet Sonic Sanjik Swing. I hate saying S words. I think my S's already sound a bit too, you know what I mean? It's obnoxious. I hate hearing it when I have to cut in my audio. And you know, oh god, making it so. There's another S. What? Hey Salem, Salem Hollow, Siegfried Wilder, Nabern Yerd, KB, Tenric Terror, Cho Henshin, and Sonic Bot. Guys, once again, thank you so much for your support here. And remember, this is going to be the last month. I might be doing the Patreon callouts. We might switch that up at the beginning of next year. Let me know if this is something you want me to keep doing. Otherwise, I'm probably gonna cut it out. It adds a lot of extra time to videos. Not that I'm ungrateful at all. I really do enjoy the crap out of all of you. I'm very, very, very thankful. But I figured we could wrap up these videos a little bit faster than what we do. And maybe offer something a little bit more special for you guys. Got a couple podcasts out exclusive to patrons. I might be considering more and more of that if you guys are enjoying that. And I think I'll actually be posting a spot for you guys to ask any Q&A stuff that I can answer exclusively on that podcast. That's just one idea I have in the works. Got some other fun things going on, but we are going to be tightening things up quite a bit at the beginning of 2025. So just another heads up, nothing set in stone quite yet, but whatever we end up doing, I will be doing at the beginning of January. So thank you again for all the support. Thank you for listening to the end here. Let me know what you think, and I'll catch you all later. Toot toot, Sonic Warriors.